I'm hungry.
Sure. And there's fried chicken, sweet potatoes, cornbread, and apple cobbler.
Can I have my supper, please?
Naturally.
Can I have milk, too?
Mm-hmm. But first we'll have a little talk about our secrets.
No.
And why not, pray tell?
Because John said I mustn't.
Never mind what John said. John's a meddler. Now stop that sniveling. Looky here. You know what that is? Want to see something cute? Now looky. How about that? This is what I use on meddlers. John might be a meddler. No, little lamb, don't touch it. Now don't touch my knife. That makes me mad. Makes me very, very mad.
Welcome to the first of many Patreon-exclusive podcasts. My name is Nathan.
And I'm Bob.
And you probably are already aware of that since you are helping us to fund our podcast. So what are we doing here? The first thing I guess we're really going to do is we're going to go over something that's been requested by a lot of people, and those are the paths of enlightenment. So for the next couple of months, honestly, we're going to be going over individually these paths of enlightenment and, explain them to some degree and try to give some tips on how to properly role play them and really just go over what these paths of enlightenment are like. And we're going to start tonight with one that's not really a path of enlightenment per se, but it's kind of like where we all start.
It is. It is a path of enlightenment. We're talking about humanity.
Right.
It is. It truly is. The reason why it's not called a path of humanity is because you were born to it.
Right.
Right? So what is a path of enlightenment then? Well, I'm glad you didn't ask. What a path of enlightenment really is a systemic belief of morality and law that you're kind of born to.
Right.
You know of it to be as such, therefore, that is the basis of all your moral beliefs and ethical behavior. Collectively, that guides who you are. Anyone can tell you what their morality and ethics are.
Right.
Well, in Vampire, humanity is what you start on because everybody's a human.
Right. It's essentially the remnants of your human life that remain after you become embraced.
And it's remnants is an interesting term because, yeah, that's actually a way to look at it. Another one could be you're human, but you're also a vampire. And slowly you're learning to meet in the middle. Humanity is something that when it's high, it gets lost very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Has to, right? I have to learn, we're kind of ahead. Because we got to paint a picture, right? Because this is actually a dissection of what humanity is, or what the morality is. Because the number one question is, why the hell is humanity so important?
Right.
Right? Like, what's the point?
Right, who gives a shit?
Why stress on it? Well, in Vampire, it was a built-in system for storytelling that says, how do we stop people from just deciding to build up monster characters, run around, and do whatever they want? Like some form of immortal X-Men. You know, how do you do that?
Right. How do you maintain throughout the years and continue to exist? And where's the change there? Where's the potential for change?
Right.
Where's the potential to slip into, that monstrous nature? Is that a good thing to do? Is it a bad thing to do? Does that even factor in?
And the answers to a lot of this is, well, it's up to you to
Right.
answer these questions. But we're going to talk about the mechanic in the book because that's a good place to start. I think the mechanic paints a picture for what the intent is to better understand the overall. At least it's my opinion. So the mechanic is a sliding scale, 1 through 10, 10 being the very best apex person ever known.
Right.
Remember, I told you guys somewhere I know it was written in a book that Jesus Christ himself only had a humanity of 8. Just to put it in perspective. A lot of your saints have humanities of 8 in that area, so it makes sense, right? It lines up with their logical line of thinking.
Right.
But somebody at 10 never gets angry. Somebody at 10 would never, ever have a bad thought enter their head, a bad day, a bad mood. They are just eternally at one and at peace with all things nice and human. Or humane, if you will, by the definition, not necessarily by human hand.
Right.
So that's the idea. 1, oh man. 1 is like the exact polar opposite. And we're not talking you're running around through the streets like a madman doing all this stuff, right? A person at a humanity of 1, a vampire at a humanity of 1, looks like their beast. I want you to picture the worst depiction of one of those Buffy characters that they had on TV. And I use Buffy not because, one, I don't think it's a bad show. I think it's good for what it is, but I want to highlight the fact that the vampires in that show were taking from folklore for how they looked, because it was believed that a vampire tricked the mind. They always looked that way, right? That Buffy beast way.
Right.
But whenever they got around mortals, they automatically were seducing you. And only those of faith could see them for what they were. And that show just kind of goes, they just look cool, so here they are. And that's fine. I'm sorry for the segue. But at one, you can't help it. Your beast is who you are. Your beast has literally won that war. Instead of you having a balance, meaning in the middle, like you're a vampire now and you have this code, you've now wholly are a slave to your impulses.
It's like, the way that I would put it, it's like you are your beast, and every once in a while, that part of your human can poke through. You know, it's instead of like at 10, where you're so human, you're more human than a human being. You've battened yourself away from selfish thoughts, selfish acts. It's nearly impossible to maintain. So too is the exact opposite at 1.
Now you may notice we didn't mention Golconda. Golconda has to be talked about here too. We didn't mention yet because we first understand the skill. 1 being the suck end, 10 being the great end, depending. It's not always the suck end. We'll get to that in a minute. Why 10 is important is because there's a state that you can obtain. There is a challenge to your soul that one can go through, and it's called the Suspire. And in this, it's where your mind is reconciling, and this is assuming you're at a 10.
Right.
Your mind is reconciling what you are and where your place is in the world, and you're making a peace with it. And this is where your beast and you are kind of having a meeting. I hate to say a meeting in the terms of in your head you're now thinking you're listening to your car or whatever, that there's a separate entity sitting down with you going, nah, I don't want that. Nah, add this, and you're negotiating. It's really not. What it is your beast has learned that it cannot do things this entire time. It has learned a different way to be. You're still a vampire. Don't get it twisted. But once the Suspire hits, if you pass whatever spiritual challenge it is, and it is supposed to be one that is dire. We won't give an example because each one is personal to the character is. We'd have to make an entire character, tell you about that character, and then narrate the Suspire.
Right.
We can't. What the Suspire is, whatever challenge it is internally, if passed, then you hit a state which is known as Golconda, which is basically bliss. It's a state of peace. You don't frenzy anymore. You have access to heightened levels of discipline regardless because your beast has transcended the limitations of the blood with you, which is the cool thing about it. Very mythical state. No one believes it. Yeah. And if you're on Golconda, you stay away from everyone else because how could you?
Right.
You can't
how
even
could you
relate
continue
to them.
exist when, you've far transcended.
These are yogis in the mountains somewhere who have foregone civilization to be at peace. They don't have to feed every night.
Right. It is really it's one of those things that if your gaming troop decides that, one of you or all of you want to, make that trip, want to go down this path, it's going to be a very challenging, possibly disappointing scenario. Human beings naturally are prone to selfish thoughts, selfish deeds, and you just can't, you get to a point where that's not possible. But how hard is that just as a human to do, right? Just as you or I, but now add in the fact that you're a vampire and you have to feed and something may die. Something is likely to die because of your existence. It's really, really difficult and really challenging, but it could make for a very fun game. So
what's interesting, what would somebody on Golconda of humanity do? Well, they still have to feed. They don't have to do it nightly. In fact, they don't even have to do it monthly. Mm-hmm. It's a long time before they even get hungry, before they even lose one blood trait. So they may have to feed maybe once a year, if that. Think about that. Where you have to feed nightly before you're on it. If you're in this state, wow, your beast doesn't ever tax you, really. And what turns around and happens is that when you do feed, you probably have some system where you request it. You undoubtedly have a following. Mm-hmm. There are undoubtedly people who can just feel and radiate a sense of humanity, of peace. And that mechanic's in there too. If you reach 8 or above on any of the paths, you have what's known as a bearing. And that bearing gives you bonus dice in situations or negative dice, and you also radiate a feeling. Or radiate that bearing.
Well, you have a bearing for any level. It just depends, yeah.
Well, no. A bearing is literally a plus or a minus and starts at 8 where you'll see the negatives.
Oh, where you see the negatives.
Right, no, the bonus dice.
Yeah, sorry. I'm ignoring half of your words.
So so why have a bearing? Well, because they believe that if somebody obtains these levels of spirituality, you're going to see it. You're going to feel it. You're going to understand it. And it's that simple. And that's it. So that's Golconda. On the opposite end, where's the beast come in? What's so bad about being on a 1? Well, what's the 0, Bob? We'll hold off on the 0.
Right.
Okay? Because the 0 in itself is really a misnomer. Because it doesn't mean your character dies. It just means you can't play them. Right? There is no 0. So at 1, you could still lose your character. I have to point that out. And as a storyteller, I definitely would take you... If your player has done something to hit a 1 and you've role-played, when you're at a 4, you're at the danger zone of where that person is going to have issues rationalizing what they are in their world. Still a cool, playable character. But at the 4 level of humanity, they're sliding so far, there are other beings who start to sense the loss, that you're losing your grip.
Yeah, human beings start to notice how creepy you are. They notice, again, you're bearing. You're dealing with them. You're predatory by nature. The ability for you to hide what you are becomes more and more difficult to the impossibility.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why they say that it's not unusual to see pale skin. Everyone likes that Anne Rice effect they show whenever Louis first becomes a vampire and he has the black veins you can kind of see in his skin, and his skin goes from a healthy pink to a pale. And they're like, oh, that's cool. All vampires look like that. No, they don't. In a world of darkness, you look like you, except you're embraced, depending on, not, ignoring all the clan weaknesses aside.
Right.
You start off at a normal level. As you get lower, yes, you're going to start. And at 4 is when you start noticing the pale skin, the blackened veins. You may get sunken in eyes. You may get, and it's up to the storyteller's creativity. It may be based solely on your nature and demeanor. It may be based on just how you're playing your character. Other distinctive appearances where you're something supernatural and people don't want to be around you. Now, at a 4, you can maybe find someone who's willing to pull you to the side and help you find your way in life. They would mentor you honestly in your spirituality, trying to get you to get your grip back. Well, right now, pause that there, because just think of it as humanity terms. Someone's trying to get you to calm down,
right,
and kind of realize what you're doing.
Because you're on the bottom side.
There you go.
You're on the bottom slide of that slope, where you're at that point. Your indulgences are a thing, because the degree of morality which you've kept your beast at bay, well, now your beast is on the winning side.
Right.
It legitimately, even some would say at a 5, just numerically, but at this point, the beast is winning. The beast is definitely winning out. And your personality, the human aspects of you, those that you held over from your embrace, those are starting to slip. You're becoming more bestial. You're becoming more of the vampire first and the mortal second.
Right. And to talk about what happens when you get to that fateful 1 or slip loss to a 0, it's called the wassail. This is where you become a creature unto a wight.
Right.
Is what you're called. And what is the wight? Well, a wight is where your beast won. There's nothing of you left.
Right.
It's you, but you're somewhere, something may be in there. They don't really know. But they do know this. A wight, they find the deepest, darkest place they could find out of your holdings, out of somewhere in the lands you have. And they build their own little nook and their own little way of being. And it cares about these 3 things: feeding, existing, and killing.
Right.
It gains pleasure from feeding, but it has to feed. It also loves killing.
Right.
Killing's one of its things.
I think that it's said pretty much best in these in this one sentence: must sleep, must feed, must kill.
Yes.
3 sentences, but yes.
It's done. They have a whole entire book based on this, but I just wanted to sins of the blood if you're curious. But when you look at what a wight is and what it does, it's horrible. And it's interesting, too, because when your beast wins, a stake through the heart no longer paralyzes it. It can kill it. Garlic can work on it. Strange things can now affect the beast that didn't before these wights. And it's something no vampire organization ever wants to talk about. No Sabbat, no Anarch, no Cam. And everyone to mention it, all know to kill them. Because what a wight does at this point is that if it kills any mortal, that mortal becomes a wight. Serves under it. And it's a hellish thing, right? That's a problem in anyone's book. You feed nightly, and this beast is going to feed every time it lays eyes on
I've never
someone.
even heard that.
And it's actually Tits McGavin if you're a storyteller.
Right.
If you're ever playing a game and you think your players have seen it all, remind them of why it's important to have humanity, or that weird elder that just stopped coming to Elysium, who had an outburst and killed someone, that players thought that the prince killed him or someone dealt with him or whatever.
Yeah.
But then that might be something they get to go do. Go find him.
And let's talk about this. We'll get into all the paths individually and why they're important, but I'm curious. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. All right. Well, I've got Johnny Biker, and he's my new character. And what the fuck do I care about humanity? I want to fight people. I want to fuck shit up. What do I care? Like humanity, whatever. The lower the humanity, the less problems I have, right?
And if we're playing devil's advocate here, let's look at the sliding scale, right?
Right.
They're not going to care about the higher levels. They're at where they're at. They're not going to care about the lower levels.
Right.
Yet.
Right.
But they're not going to care until the storyteller tells them there is, just because a human was assigned to humanity. By the way, did you know humans don't lose humanity? I don't know if you know that.
No.
Humans don't have a sliding scale. They can't be really any higher. They can't be any lower. The book doesn't want you to worry about that.
Right.
There's billions of people in the world, and yes, I've seen in print a serial killer that they had as a template had a humanity of 6.
Right.
Wow, that seems weird. Yeah, you'd think it'd be lower, but here's why. It doesn't matter. Because a human's still a human, and no matter how bad a human is, they're not a vampire.
Right. They don't have a beast. They don't have something supernatural urging them forward.
So what does it mean to have a beast then? I mean, you asked that question as a biker, why should he care?
Right. Yeah.
To give an example, Nate the Biker runs around and he has the same urges he always did. Maybe he wants to get high tonight, definitely wants to get laid, always does. Maybe not, depending on the mood, but usually hell yeah. Especially in front of the guys, you gotta live up, have the machismo. He's gonna want to maybe kick some ass a little bit. Or if everyone's lucky, tonight's just a sex night. We got paid, everybody's happy. Let's take that scenario. He gets embraced tonight because the person he laid was hungry. And he had no idea. Well, that person who embraced him beat feet. Let's say it's a gangrel.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. But just
I don't,
off.
I'm Nate the Biker. I don't know shit. All I know is meth and motorcycles and my biker mama.
So let's think about it. When he woke up today, before all this happened, he smelt maybe the excess diesel and the oil from working on engines, his men, kicking rock. The fact that there might be gun oil, they were preparing for a run. He might even hear the telltale sounds of guys talking shit still. It's what you do at parties all night. People talk shit, maybe get laid, maybe not.
Right.
He checked his buddies yelling and complaining. He's got a weird burn in his pants now they didn't have before. And the girl who had that, he used to go right here to the clinic to get it taken care of. But don't worry, the road mama, she's cooking bacon. They got them eggs waiting and a few beers, and his day was great. He loves the smell of bacon in the morning and really, really just needs some fucking coffee, right? Except this is the next night after he was embraced. He slept the whole fucking day, and by sleep, he blacked out.
Right.
He doesn't remember it. When he wakes up, he's not achy. None of that's achy. He got a bullet wound to the knee in Nam. Years back, and it's been bugging him since. He's in his late 40s. He knows for a fact he has some arthritis in his hands and some bad way, and that was in the morning, but he got used to that pain and ignored it. He feels the greatest he's ever felt in his life upon waking up. There's none of that pain's there. And when he wakes, he's looking around, and man, that fucking bacon smells disgusting. God, they need to clean that up and get that shit out of here. It must be rotted or something.
Right.
You can't stand the smell of oil. It's only the smell of oil. Your idiot buddy, you told him 1,000 times to quit mixing diesel with normal engine fuel that you'd put in a race car, and he's trying to put it in his bike, and he's still fucking doing it. How the hell do you know he's doing that? Wait a minute. You're down below. That bike's up top. That's at least, over 300 feet away? And in open air, and you can smell it. That's fucked up.
Right.
Well, now you're checking your head to see if you got a fever, and shit, you can't even tell that the lamp is warmer than you are.
Right.
Weird shit. Your hearing's heightened. And more importantly, your sense of smell is amazing. As you get up to the top, your buddies, God, do they smell good. You didn't even realize that you've been staring at one of them for a good 30 seconds. And he literally has his hand in the hilt of his knife because, suddenly you come at him like half a fag. He has no idea why you're staring at him.
Right.
I mean that in the term of how this biker might think. It's a challenge, and you realize, man, I have been staring at him. Maybe you ask him, you do something different? You kind of smell good. And his buddy's, what are you talking about? Now you're you're putting me on. Whatever, go get some food. We ordered out. We got some tacos or something sitting over there. No, what about the bacon? Nobody cooked bacon. Oh, that's pan's been washed, but you're smelling what's in the garbage disposal.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And then blood's there and all this stuff is kicking you. But these urges are amazing. It's you want to eat. your buddy. You can't get out of your head. It was first a smell. You realized that you got up there and you were looking at him for a while before he said something. And then he laughs about the garbage disposal, but every time you laugh or say something, you've moved a little closer. And then you're thinking, man, why did I get so close to him? And you got this pain in your stomach. It's almost a burning sensation. It's hunger you've never had. And your buddy notices that you got some weird ass teeth now popping out of your face. And we can pause it there.
Right.
Clearly, it's a night and day difference from having a beast and not having a beast.
Right. It's not, would you say, it's not simply, well, Nate the biker, now he's just a vampire. Flip the switch. All right, there you go.
Right.
It's not, because you've died. Clearly, some dramatic changes have happened to your own body. But now there's a hunger inside you, unlike any hunger that you've ever known. Unlike any hunger for bacon, or a hunger for beer, or a lust for sex, or a desire for a drug that you're addicted to. It is everything to you. And everything that is that beast inside of you urging you on. And in a different scenario, that biker wakes up and he murders all of his friends.
Right.
He slaughters them. He drinks every drop of them.
I think the same scenario he still does.
Possibly. That's the thing. That's his fight. That's his morality.
Right.
That's where that contest of will comes in. His human side that goes, no, these are my friends. Let me devise a way. Let me have that selfish thought just so I can appease this hunger inside of me.
Right.
But also not murder these people. And then there's that beast that's like, no, I'm sorry. That's not going to happen.
Right. He might win. And in that first scenario, he left.
Right.
But he left in like a blood, sweat, and panic because he can't get out of his head. He wants to eat him.
Right.
Right. And this is something that every player has to reconcile, because that is your humanity. That is your beast. And there are three things to denote, well, Bob, how bad could it be? Why would I care? How do I denote that I would care? 3 stats, right? You start with. They're all your virtues, and they're based on, well, we'll stick with humanity. They do vary, but humanity are your basics, right? You have conscience, you have self-control, and you have courage. They mean exactly what they sound, right?
Yeah.
Conscience is your moral guilt, your right from wrong, how you're going to feel before you do it and after you do something, how you make peace with it. And that's your major tie-in to your path.
Right.
Self-control is purely stopping your beast. This is not roll a die because I don't know if I want to buy a car. No. This is literally something in you wants to eat your loved ones. It wants to eat your friends. It doesn't care what they are to you. All they are is blood.
Exactly. And it's your ability to harden yourself and control your actions as opposed to letting that beast out.
Exactly. And in courage, you may think it's how courageous is my guy to get into a fight and whatever. No, it's not. No, it's not. Those virtues are there to break out exactly how much courage you have, or I should say that your beast has, to some of the banes of your existence.
Right.
You don't make a courage roll every time you get into a fight. You don't make a courage roll because there's a big explosion, unless it's fire-based. You do make a courage roll when someone lights a cigarette and you're too close. You do make a courage roll when it's fireworks out, it's the 4th, and it looks like fire's raining from the sky. You do when it starts lightening up in the sky, and before you realize it, it's just a helicopter going by.
Right.
Yes, these could all be triggers of courage,
right,
but it's related to your beast.
And why is that? Very clearly, your beast sees these things as a way for you to be destroyed. Your beast doesn't want to be destroyed. Your beast wants to live and, well, live figuratively, consume and kill.
Yep.
That's what it wants to do. And if you are not courageous enough to go, no, you know what? I can hold myself against this. I can hold that urge back to flee or, to jump out of the way of that lighter. There you go. That's your courage. These are all ways for you to harden yourself against the urges of your beast, because your beast is not you. It is, but it isn't.
So what happens then? What determines my conscience? Right? How do I determine a starting conscience? Well, you do.
Yeah, you just pick it. Right, because you've made a background.
Every dot has a single rating to it attached to it. They even tell you what's considered normal.
Right.
Right? What's the average? And either you were a very conscience-heavy person or you weren't.
Right.
And what's ridiculous? Having a 1 conscience, that's hard to beat. You may be playing a character that would have 1, but I have to caution you. What happens if you roll conscience and it botches, right? You don't get that success and it comes up a 1. you actually permanently lose that conscience. It's gone.
Absolutely.
And at that point, you're a storyteller character. Wait, Bob, how? Well, because in less than a week, you're going to be in the wassail.
Yeah.
You have nothing to stop your impulses. There is nothing anymore. It's like, the best way, if it helps you on a spiritual level, the devil possesses you. It comes into your world, and when the beast said it feels good, do it. Absolutely. And you may go out and start raping people, right? You're at a 7, that conscience is gone at that 7, and you lose the humanity down to 6. Well, dude, I want that guy's car. And your beast says, kill him. Why? You want, the beast says, take. You desire your boyfriend, you desire your girlfriend, you don't ask them, you take them. Right? Because that's what the beast would do. Right. It is a predator. You're a predator. And the only thing holding it back was your conscience, and that's gone.
Yep.
So now you're just going to do it. And eventually you're going to violate so much and do so much that there's nothing of you left. Well, during that, Bob, can I get me back? Well, you tell me how you get you back. It doesn't make sense, right? The answer is no. So to me, yeah, you get NPC'd. That's how that do. Now, that's why it says to at least have 2. Because, if you lose 1, you're definitely going to do what you can to get that back, to put you on even keel, right? And role play it accordingly. And that's the way it is. And now these are the mechanics, right, that we're going over again. Humanity, any path violation is always going to be based off that conscience stat or conviction, which is what it becomes later on. And we'll talk about that alternate pass. We're sticking to humanity for now.
All right.
So, all right, we talked about Wassail, we talked about Kokanda, we talked about the sliding scale. What the fuck does all this mean in roleplay? All right, cool. I want you to push all that mechanic aside because that's all for your storyteller. Every bit of that is for the storyteller to communicate to you. Every bit of that is for your storyteller to bring it up to you when they feel that you are not role-playing your humanity. The only thing that you ever have to carry about on your sheet is that humanity stat and how to tie it into your concept.
Right.
Everyone should look at what their little number is and where they fall into that in relation to what they built. Because that's how you portray a full, fleshed out, bred character.
Right. No, absolutely. And we'll use Nate the biker again as an example. Well, I'm a shit kicker. I'm a take no bullshit. You step the line, you're going to get smoked, right? Okay. Well, that's all well and good, but now when I'm out there fighting that rival gang, am I crippling myself? Because I can't throw down and shit kick. So how do I role play that? What am I supposed to do to role play that character that's the guy I was before?
I love relating this to a show, right? I do. Because I think a lot of people relate this to it, at least the scenario. Mm-hmm. Imagine it's the Sons of Anarchy, right?
Sure.
And it's a situation where Opie is in the back seat of the truck and he's supposed to blow that guy away, and he doesn't. What you're looking at is an on-screen conscience role.
Right.
Opie is a shit kicker.
Right.
Opie is someone who gets shit done. He's a 1%er. He will die for his org. However, his MC, not his org, it's corporate. But anyway, so he's there in that moment, and look it up on YouTube if you need to. That actor portrays every emotion a guilty man who just, and not even guilt like wussed out, guilt like he's used to being the cold-blooded doer. And something whispered in his ear that day, who knows what it is? I can relate it to you in a vampire sense. Let's say Opie is a vampire, and a gun was put in his hand, and that's a rival, that's a ghoul that's sitting in front of him. That ghoul will know shit. Right. She don't know any better. She's doing her job. That's all she's doing. And he's right there in that moment going, what am I? What am I? Right now, what the fuck am I? And inside him, his beast is kill. Take. Kill. Be rid of this. It's a threat to us. We end our threats. We are the dominant one. And Opie's saying, shut the fuck up. I'm in charge. This person doesn't have to die.
Right.
We are stronger than them. They're not a threat unless we make them a threat. There's another way. And he leaves knowing he's fucked. Because how does he relate that concept to the guys back at the garage without them going, he fell off.
Right.
Opie's a father. He has a family. You know the show. He has a lot riding on the fact that he's a good guy who has to do what he has to do, which makes him a bad guy.
Right.
Right?
It sounds to me like character development. And that's one thing that I think all players and storytellers should really understand is that, we use like TV shows and movies as an example of like, okay, how do you portray this? But that's because the job of a TV writer, the job of a writer in a movie, director, actor, is to portray a rich character. And that's your job as a role player. When you create a character, you should be making a rich character. And that character is either going to have those points in its existence where it goes, like, I don't need to kill this person, or it's going to step over that line.
Yep.
And you're going to fall and descend as you role play that. And that's totally up to you. There's no right or wrong answer. But as long as you're role playing your character and thinking of your character from that perspective, like, you know, I have these people in my life I need to protect, and I know if I let this person go, they're going to come back at us, and they're going to come back at us harder, and I'm going to put all the things that I love at risk, so I need to make this decision and do it, or they don't know shit. They're not a risk. They're not a threat, and make that choice.
And this is a perfect segue. You know, hey, Nate, Bob, I kind of suck at this. You know, I kind of get what you're saying, but I have no vaguest conception unto earth how the hell to do this. Well, what we're doing is, what we're not telling you is the mental exercises we do naturally. We just breathe through it now. And that is, you stack up the pros and cons. Literally make the list of what your character would do and would not do when they were alive, and then apply that same scenario upon their death. And I would do it something simple. That's why I tell people, what was a day in the life for your character? Write it down. Even do bullet points. You know, were you happy? Did you have a wife? Did you not? Did you have a husband,
Right.
family, kids? Did you have these things? What was important to you? Did you have a best friend? Of course you did. What'd you guys do? Where'd you go along? What was fun? Take all that, keep it there. And then get another page out and put, you just died last night and woke in your own bed. Day 2 of that wonderful life, or that shitty life, depending on how it is. Where do you fall in that mix? How do you rationalize the fact that things smell different? You hear differently. You feel nothing towards
Right.
one person or another. And that's the thing that we didn't explain. It's very true of being a vampire. When you die, a very odd thing happens to you in the way you see things. It's almost as if the good emotions, because the blood is all and the blood is everything. Upon death, a vampire only cares about the new emotions that blood elicits, that it brings up. And it's a sad existence because the rest of it is memory,
Right.
right? That's it.
You don't feel love in the traditional sense anymore. You remember love.
Because you see things in territory and possessiveness. We went over this when we talked about the Elysium book.
Yep.
And how it is and how elders are forced to be analytical and realize that, where your neonates don't. You know, what's it like to be a neonate? And when we talk about neonate as a brand new vampire, which is what you become in the Embrace. What were you like as a neonate? Undoubtedly, if you were Biker Nate, you went and got into a fight with 3 or 4 people.
Yep.
And were amazed that nobody could put you down.
Right.
Normally 3 or 4 people, you got to get a weapon, no matter how big you thought you were.
But then, you know, what is the side effect to that situation when you look at what you did and you realize you really you didn't feel like you were in control of your own actions.
And we're back to mental Olympics.
Right.
We're back to going, well, shit. How did that affect me? Well, ... This is the good shit I noticed. Well, at least I didn't crush his head. ... I did exsanguinate him.
Right.
Right? Oh my God! Why did I do that?
I hit that guy and I shattered his elbow. You know, I kicked his leg off. You know,
Or worse, you fed from someone, and if you're us, we're storytellers who believe that if it's an emotional feeding, if it's strong enough, you can get emotions from the person you're feeding from. You may see snippets of this person's life if they're not out and out hallucinations to you.
And you know that let's not, you know, toot our own horn, but like that's something that we've always kind of
Yep.
believed in. But like that's where the game is going.
Yep.
That's, you know, they've already made overtures that is a thing.
Dude,
very much in V5.
Requiem, that's a reality.
Right.
V5, they brought in a mechanic, and it's something to do. And why do that now that you're playing V20? Because this is how you stay on your A game. This is how you stay a vampire. Your humanity is everything. Without humanity, this game is nothing. It's literally a piece of shit. And you got to know that. It truly is.
Right. Well, because at that point, it's just, you know, it's something that we don't like, which is just go forth, kill, move forward.
Well, without your humanity,
it's not a story.
Without humanity, there's no beast.
Right. Well, and
Right?
that's what I'm getting
No
at.
consequence. I'm just highlighting it because, you know,
Right.
I highlight that. So, in saying this, though, now that we said all of this, it's like, great, I heard the podcast, heard about humanity. What the hell? You just told me there's a big emotional bag I gotta like pay attention to and care about and do. No, it's not just an emotional bag. It's the bag that you should have a lock on. Because if you can handle where your character is with a sliding humanity and portray what that looks like, and a growing humanity and portray what that looks like, you are leagues ahead of anyone else who just started playing. Even veterans who played the game for years still don't understand the point of humanity. They treat it as, whatever, it's humanity loss, move on.
Or like it's a secondary.
Right, like, well, who cares? No storyteller's ever made it important, so I shouldn't care.
And you know, that's maybe not your fault as a player, but that you've been done a disservice.
It is your fault as a player, because what is Dracula without gaining humanity after he meets Mina? We see Dracula when he's old standard, right?
Right.
And Bram Stoker's Dracula, he goes at Lucy fulfilling his own lust. He's at her full tilt. He's trying to add another wife to the clique. And he does so successfully. But then he sees Mina, and she looks like his wife, the memory of his wife. And that calls to something in him. He's only what he is because God took his wife away from him.
Right.
He forgot his wife sacrificed herself for him so they could not push her Dracula one way or another in his life. And, you know, he has, we won't call it a suspire, but definitely a crisis of conscience.
Right.
What am I doing?
I think it goes back to that concept of like ripples in the pond.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing as you remembering what it's like to love, you remembering what it's like to, you know, be comfortable and close to someone, but you don't really feel them.
He feels so strongly about it, he moves all his shit to England.
Right.
Right? He's got to be near Mina. He's got to be in her life. He's the new strapping prince walking down the street as if he's courting his wife for the first time again. Having memories that he's well aware it's not her. And he's talking to her. But then, you know, they do something cool in the movie where it literally looks like she could be the reincarnated version of it. Now, I like the interpretation. There's even boards invented to this where it's like, it really is her. No, it's not. It's his hallucination. Here's the point. That woman, Mina, loves him so much that she's okay that she hearkens to something he remembered because he feels love so intensely in his memory that woman must have been truly blessed when she was alive. And it's like they both have a religious epiphany in this.
Right.
She was willing to walk into damnation to be with him forever. He was willing to die so that she didn't. And he does. And so what are we saying here? We're saying that Dracula stands the test of time, Bram Stoker's, even that book period, Bela Lugosi, all of them. Why it's amazing and such a romantic, dark story? Humanity.
Right.
Right?
But
That's the key.
And you know, the thing is about all of your classic vampire stories, they are the romance of loss of self and trying to recapture self.
Perfectly said.
Vampires are badass. We all know that, but that's not why we play this game. You know, you don't need to wrap a badass in a vampire. We're playing this game that is a game of romance, and there are tendencies for badassery in there. Go ahead and take advantage of them at your leisure, but don't forget the foundation, the basis of what this is, and that's trying to live what is essentially a tortured existence among people that you once were, that you now have to pretend to be in order to survive.
And think about that every single time you play your character. You are not human. Get that mantra in your head. If you are not human, you are not human, you will never be human again.
Right.
And why you do that is because it forces you to look at a rift between the mortals described and those unique ones that you encounter and those that might be like you. It opens up a role play in you where you want to talk to the retainer. How does a retainer cease to be a retainer? When it's not your servant.
Right.
And you encounter someone else's that may be dapper or competent or beautiful or talented or something else. They may remind you of things. They may not. Maybe you detest them, but you love the fact that they elicit a detest because you forgot what that was like. Because anything you never liked before, you simply destroyed.
Right.
Right?
And then,
'Cause that's your beast.
Right. And then on the other side of the coin, we have these almost alien individuals that are the same as you, that they've gone off into some other path of enlightenment, which is where our next podcast is going to start.
Exactly.
Because they are so diametrically different than you. Maintaining your humanity, they're alien. They're no longer even remotely human in bearing, in emotion, in deed, or in thought. And that's where that's going to end up.
And to highlight one thing, remember, in all things, humanity does not care about your creed, race, color, religion, background at all.
Right.
It's about being Homo sapien, being a living, breathing human. Your culture, the way you were raised, is going to determine where your humanity is and what you're about.
Of course. But there are some certain inalienable truths.
Yes.
You know, their murder is wrong. You know, theft is morally wrong. It's
Right.
not. It's not a religious thing. It's literally just a sliding scale of morality, very simply put. So I think unless you have anything else you want to add, I mean, I think that about sums it up. Now, with this and all these podcasts that are going to come, you as a player, you as a patron, you're going to have questions. Awesome. Shoot us your questions and we'll address them as they come up. That way we can create a dialogue. We can help you to better role play, to better storytell.
Oh, there is something.
Yeah.
There was something I was asked about this question for Chris Kane. And I explained it. I felt very well. We'll see if I can hit the head of the nail twice in a row. So what is it to role play a loss of humanity, right? I'm going down a level, right? Is it
Right.
simply, shit, I'm no longer at a 6. Well, I got to try to get that back. Let me go do a bunch of stuff to get it back. I'll help old ladies cross the street. I'll buy my neighbor's groceries. I'll teach the blind, whatever. No, none of that does anything. Why? Well, the simple answer is this. Losing humanity is not, oh no, I feel this gulf now. Losing humanity means that you have basically bonded with your beast further.
Right.
That it now makes sense. That it's you see differently. If I killed a vessel and that's what caused me to lose my humanity, but I lost my humanity, it means my conscience roll was made by the storyteller, and it's only the storyteller who ever makes this humanity check. And it failed apparently because the storyteller now describes how I feel about the feeding or the action that caused me to have the loss of humanity. It's either I accepted it and made my peace with it. And by make my peace, I don't mean like, man, I'm sad and blah. I mean, the biker killed and fed on his buddy right to the floor. And he thinks to himself, shit, that guy never amounted to much anyway. Yeah, at least now he has a purpose. If I knew he was tasty that long ago, I might have ate him to begin with.
Right.
That's a loss of humanity.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's your beast talking through you is
It's
what
you
that
rationalizing, right.
Exactly.
It's the rationalization of what your activities
and
were.
making it an acceptable thing to you so you can't lose humanity for that act again. Now, are there warnings? Yeah, certainly. If you have humanity, and let's say it sits at 7, and someone pisses you off like, man, I want to kill that guy. Some storytellers may be dickish enough to force you to make a conscience check and give you a warning. Some may say, be careful.
Right.
Should they say anything? I guess it's up to the storyteller. Me, not so much.
Yeah.
You can think you want to kill somebody because they piss you off any day of the week. Most people do. Your boss is probably one of the most dead people known to walk still, and that's that. But the fact is, until you do something toward it, plan it, right? The moment you're like, hey, when's he get off work? Yeah, when he gets out, then I'm going to kill him.
Right.
That's when, as a storyteller, you intervene and go,
When we're at those levels, yeah, for sure.
are you serious about that? Or is that something where, I'm just fucking, it's a thought, man. Yeah, it was. Roll your conscience and let you know where you're at.
Right. We get to those super high levels and you start going, man, that guy probably deserves to die. That definitely could be a conscience check. It could be a humanity roll because that's the level of like beyond you've become.
But the point we're at, they say, where are those minds then? Where's that list that says, oh man, shit, I violated my humanity? Fun thing, Jack. It's not that way. It's vague on purpose.
Right.
It's vague on purpose. They give you the ballpark.
Yep.
It's up to the storyteller and you to determine where that violation is, and mainly the storyteller. You're playing in the storyteller's world of what that morality system is. That's the important key here. Yes, you're a part of it, but you need to have a clear, distinctive understanding that will, and it's not, he's not going to lecture you like we're talking to you now on anything. What he's going to do is going to sit there and let you play in the game. And when he gives you the warnings of conscience violations, that's when you're building right there. What are the do's and don'ts according to him? You may have a strong argument as to why you feel you should do that, and you should have that discussion. Arguments don't have to always be bad. It's, I oppose your viewpoint on that call. I feel my character's this, and you may be like, good point for now. But, here's your yellow card. You've been warned.
Right.
Now, sometimes you may just lose it. That boss pissed you off so bad, you don't wait for a frenzy check. You just walk up and hit him in the face as hard as you can. You have potence 3, though. That's immortal. That's a mortal who may not live again.
Right.
And you just hit him. You just jaw-jacked him. Yeah, I'm taking your 7 to a 6. I'm going to do it automatic. I'm not even going to give you a warning.
And that's a concept that I agree with as a storyteller. When you, as a player, Bob comes up to me and he goes, you know what? I've had it with this fucking place. I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to start knifing motherfuckers. I don't go, are you sure you want to do that? Because he came to me with conviction.
Exactly.
You know what? I'm going to slam this dude's head in this car door until he stops moving. That's awesome. You can go ahead and lose that humanity. What? I didn't get to roll?
Do I think less of you?
No.
Not at all.
No.
I think it's awesome that in that concept, in the concept of the character you made, you feel they would be so impassioned to just fuck you and do it.
Right.
But guess what? Your beast agrees.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your beast agrees.
Absolutely.
And that's what that is.
You've willfully taken that step beyond the boundaries of what your humanity is, regardless of what the outcome is.
Yep.
You knew The outcome is you're going to smash some dude's head in a car door. And you don't care because you're going to do it until he stops moving.
Now, what's the reality of losing humanity, though? The reality is, I lost it. Am I aware of it? You're aware you think differently. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're introspective. If you're not introspective, you might not. But you look at your whole worldview differently when that humanity lowers. That's the trick. Now, how do I get it back, Bob? If donating and seminars and whatever, that doesn't do shit, how do I get it back? Oh, the next violation. Are you serious? I got to find where the line... Yeah, you got to find where the line is again, and you have to resist temptation.
You have to feel remorse.
Exactly. Because when you're at that point, and that's an exact time when I would give it to someone. When we'll take it as the biker, he eats his buddy, right?
Uh-huh.
He goes out with the MC, they're like, oh, we lost someone, and he sits there and tells them, yeah, it happens. I'll give him a conscience check, right? He went from a 7 to a 6 easily. From the feeding he resolved it, but now we're thinking now we're going to lie to cover it up. Yeah, we know that. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're gonna give him a roll for that, or are we? Because I'm gonna let the player decide. You know what? I did it, and accept the consequences. Belly up to the bar. Yeah, it's not cool that I killed him. I couldn't help myself. You're looking for a humane moment to justify an increase of humanity.
Right.
See what I'm saying? You're not waiting for a series of good deeds that anybody could do.
Right. An arbitrarily selfish series of deeds to try to, again, arbitrarily regain your humanity. No. Because that's not how morals work.
Has to be something that urges you forward to build on.
Absolutely. I mean, believe it or not, me taking money out of my wallet and donating it to a soup kitchen, that doesn't do a fucking thing for my morality. That just lets me go, I donated. Okay, great.
Does that mean we think that people who donate money are less? No. That is not what we're saying.
It's altruistic acts.
Exactly.
Done not for the purposes of regaining a numerical quantity of your humanity. It's actually having... that conscientious...
Even Donald Trump donates. I'm just saying. Okay?
Right. So yeah, I guess that's where we'll wrap it up. A little bit longer than we anticipated, but that's okay. It's all for you guys. Only for you guys. So definitely let us know what you thought. Let us know if you have questions. And we're going to be... I'm not going to lead with what we're doing next, but no, for the time being, we're going to be doing paths.
Straight up path.
I have one idea where we just do them alphabetically. The other idea is we let people vote on them. So give us some feedback and let us know how you prefer we do it.
I think the vote's good, and I think the feedback's good. Guys, volunteer it and give it up there. If not, I'll tell you what, how about this? We'll default alphabetically if we hear nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you would like to hear one first, do it. That's what this podcast is about.
Remember, because you guys are patrons, you're the only guys listening to this. You know, there's I think 40-ish of you. You're the only ones listening to this, so this is literally your podcast. So you let us know what you think. You let us know what changes you'd like to see or how you'd like us to proceed going forward, and we'll get at you.
I was asked, does this mean that we're going to start doing podcasts of different games or whatever? Yeah, down the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you request, that's what this is about. So just rest assured, yes.
Yeah, for now, we're going to get through these paths because I think it's a very important aspect of this game and that a lot of people neglect.
Hottest thing asked about.
Yep. And then after that, y'all will vote. Tell us what we're going to record podcasts on, what we're going to talk about and discuss. Anyways, we should stop fucking rambling and let them get back to their lives, their jobs, their car ride. Anyways, I'm Nate.
And I'm Bob.
And thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again very soon.